Hi, my name is Alona and I like to garden. Today I'm going to give you a July update on my square foot gardening beds. If this is something that is interesting to you, let's go. I have two vegetable beds. They're 4 by 4 feet, and I use the square foot gardening method, meaning that I have a bunch of crops kind of intermingling in each of those squares. Today we're going to look at my veggies as a first part of July. Let's start with this tomato. As you can see, I have lots of blooms and lots of flowers on it. These flowers have already done blooming, so they're starting to form fruit. And then I do have fruit on the lower clusters that used to be flowers, and now they're forming little tomatoes. Here's a better look on this side. They're growing. Now, these are heirloom tomatoes, so these should be on the larger side once they're done growing. I am growing this tomato in 3 stems. So I have 1, 2, and this is going to be my third one. This is an indeterminate tomato, so technically it's going to keep growing up forever. But of course, our growing season is limiting, and I am also limited to this cage. So now that it's starting to poke up on the top of the cage, I'm going to pinch the top growth to stop it from growing up anymore. And this will allow my tomato to solely focus on maturing the fruit that it's going to create from these flowers. So yeah, that's my tomato number 1. Next to it, I have my squash, or actually this is zucchini. I only have 1 plant. It has the first set of flowers opening up today. Look at that. That's a male flower. Doesn't have a fruit on the bottom. And that one is a male flower too. I don't have any female flowers open. I have seen them forming. So like this one and this one are going to be female flowers, but they're nowhere near open. So we have to wait a little bit. But it's starting to go. Woo! This is my second try with my zucchini. My first one didn't make it, so I had to reseed. But as you can see, the second one's making it just fine. Hopefully it stays that way. Next to it, I have this broccoli plant. This one is huge. Look at it, guys. Huge. And it is shading a couple of things in front of it. It is leaning on my cabbage over here, and then I have chard over here that it is shading too. On top of it, this plant is not really making too many side shoots. I have already collected the main head, but as you can see, there's not a lot going on in terms of side shoots. I have this one. There's another one. But that's about it. So I'm thinking there's no point in keeping watering, feeding this massive plant over here while it's shading these other crops in the front. Probably going to cut it. I have heard that broccoli stems and broccoli leaves are edible. I haven't actually tried them myself, but I did find some fun recipes. So I think I'm going to cut this plant and try those recipes just to see. Now, like I showed you here briefly, in front of my broccoli plant, I have a cabbage and I have chard. Those could use a little bit more room and a little bit more light. I have harvested off of my chard a couple times already, so it doesn't have a ton of leaves, but it keeps growing new ones, so that's great. Now over here I have another cabbage. This one does have more room, so it's a little bit easier to see. It has a head inside. It is a firm head. I'm excited that it's coming along, but I'm going to keep growing it because I want it getting larger and larger, but this head is already pretty good size. See, it's getting there. Behind the cabbage, I have my eggplant. It has lots of flowers on it, and it is starting to make little eggplants. If I lift this leaf, see, this flower got pollinated. It's going to grow a little eggplant. That flower got pollinated. It's growing an eggplant. That flower got pollinated. It's making an eggplant back there too. That one's probably the biggest one. But yeah, hopefully lots and lots of eggplant on this plant. It's looking great. Over here, I have another broccoli plant. This one has a little more production in terms of side shoots. So I think I might keep this one for a little while longer. I might not. I'm not sure. I'm going to think about it because in front of this one, I do have some bush beans. And they are kind of shaded a little bit by this broccoli plant. But we'll see. I'm still thinking on whether or not to pull this plant since it's still producing. Now over here, I have my pepper. This is a sweet pepper. I'm going to show you on the other side. Here's the pepper. It does have a couple of fruit, but this one ran into a calcium deficiency. See, there's a blossom end rot on that one fruit. This one doesn't have it. I am partially to blame for that because as I learned, this Mel's Mix is not super nutrient rich, and I didn't add the nutrients to this bed initially. It was super important for me to then supplement the calcium, and I was kind of slacking that. Now I'm paying the price. I'm keeping the fruit on because I'm thinking of filming like a separate video on that, at which point I'm going to cut it. But for now, it's still there. And then next to my pepper, I have another broccoli plant. This one, kind of like the first one, it doesn't have much in terms of growing side shoots. It's mostly this green foliage. And again, it's taking up room and I have to water it and I have to fertilize it. So I'm thinking of pulling this one also, but we'll see. Now in front of it, I do have a watermelon. Now this was plant 1 of 2. My first one sadly got eaten by grubs just a few days ago. I have a short video about that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a little gross, so there's your warning, but my second one is still making it. I hope it stays that way. And then I do have another pepper plant over here. This is my jalapeno peppers. And this one does have a few peppers growing. They're getting to be a good size. So hopefully I'll get to pick at least one of them here shortly to make something tasty. And then last but not least, I have another tomato plant in this bed. This is a Brandywine tomato. This one also is starting to make little tomatoes over there. Let me come around to show you a little closer. So there they are, my little baby tomatoes. Cute. And I do have more clusters higher on that will be making more fruit. Here's another one starting to form more over here. So just like the first tomato, it's starting to get to the top of the cage here. Soon enough, I'm going to be pinching the top growth so the plant stops growing and begins to focus on growing the tomato fruit instead. This one also has 3 stems, 1, 2, 3. So that's bed number 1, 4x4. Everything we just saw is in 4x4 space. And we're going to look to the side and we're going to take a look at my other 4x4 bed. I have my third and last tomato plant here. This is a cherry tomato. It's called Centifor. As you can see, this one has a ton of flowers. And I'm really excited because we really love cherry tomatoes. This one, I have the biggest cage on. So it actually still has some room to grow. In this one, I'm growing in 4 stems instead of 3 stems. Hopefully I can get lots and lots of cherry tomatoes. But I do have baby tomatoes on the bottom here already. Look at how good they look. Yum. I can't wait until they ripen. All right, so we got our cherry tomatoes. Now to the left here, I have a broccoli plant. This one actually seeded at the same time, but then it got sunburned really badly. It was having a really hard time adjusting to the outside. It's way behind the other broccoli plants that I have. This one hasn't even grown its initial crown. It's just putting on the green leaves. I'm going to leave it as is. Behind it, I have my kale. I've harvested off of this a couple times already, but it keeps growing new leaves, so that's awesome. Love kale. Next to kale, I have another cabbage. This one's looking nice and good. The head is firm. It's really good size. It's probably my favorite cabbage plant that I'm growing this season. Now in front of it is where I was supposed to have my second watermelon plant, but as I said, it recently got munched down by the grubs that I ended up having in this bed. I strongly suspect that I had some bumbleflower beetle eggs in compost. I don't know which compost, but some compost. And they have hatched and now have a bunch of grubs. I am in the process of figuring out how to treat them right now. Initially, I thought, well, maybe they're going to hatch in July and leave and I won't have these problems anymore. But after doing some more research, it turns out that these won't really turn into beetles until mid-August, which is another over a month from now. And at that point, not just my little plants will get munched down, but also my big plants will start to struggle. So I do need to do something sooner than later. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but hopefully this weekend I'll make a decision and do something with it. Next week I have another broccoli plant. Oh, this one's starting to go from heat. I need to cut it and use it. This plant does produce some side shoots, not a ton. So I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. Next week I have another sweet pepper plant. I do have a little pepper underneath and getting bigger, maturing. And then behind my pepper plant, I do have another eggplant. I do see a ton of flowers on here. So like that one didn't get pollinated, it's going to drop off. But that one did, and look, it has a little eggplant already. That one looks like it was pollinated. Hopefully these other ones get pollinated too. So I get a ton of eggplant because I love eggplant. And then here in the corner, I have carrots. They're nice and green, but they're not ready to be harvested. No tops have popped up yet. And then next to my carrots, I have beets. Now, beets, as you can see, have been affected by the leaf miner problem. I showed you my chard in the front yard also being affected, while beets is my second crop that these flies really love to sit on and leave their larvae behind. I recently treated with Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew, and all these dead parts is where the leaf miners used to live, but now died, so the leaf part is dying out, but not all of them got decimated, so like, this is still alive, this is still alive. So I'm probably gonna treat again, this time with neem oil. My beets are not ready to harvest either. None of the tops popped up yet, so they need more time, meaning that I have to keep treating. Now, next to my beets, I have another broccoli plant. This broccoli plant has the most side shoots out of all my broccoli plants, so this one I'm definitely going to keep for a while. But see, it has like a bunch. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What else? It's like 8 little side shoots that are maturing that I can see right now, which is awesome. Probably should cut them soon because see how they're starting to get a little looser, meaning that the heat is getting to them. We do have a really hot few days coming up in like mid to upper 90s, so definitely need to cut them before that comes. Underneath that, I have more bush beans. So these are growing up nicely, looking pretty good. And more carrots. Again, these are not ready to harvest, but they're looking good. And then last but not least, I do have another cabbage in this bed. It is looking good, nice and firm. So hopefully a little bit longer and I'm going to have some cabbage to harvest. So that's everything that is currently growing in this bed. I do have this square where the cucumber was up until recently, as in a few days ago. But this cucumber also got eaten by grubs, which is why I'm saying like I need to do something because they will decimate my bigger plants too. Now this was my second try at cucumbers this year. My first one died to heat, or so I thought. Maybe it was grubs back then too. Second one definitely got munched down by grubs. I think I might try one more time. I know it's kind of early part of July, getting to be the middle of July soon. I really want some cucumbers. My son especially loves cucumbers, and I think I'm going to try one more time. Heck, third time's the charm, right? But yeah, so this was my second garden bed. Again, it's also 4x4, and this is everything I have in it. I hope you enjoyed my little tour. And if you did, please consider giving me a like and subscribing. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, happy gardening, and I'll see you in my next video.